the ocean held its breath. In the deep azure silence off the coast of the Galapagos Islands, a reef pulsed with color and movement, an entire city beneath the waves. Coral towers rose like forgotten ruins, and schools of silver sardines danced between them like glints of starlight. This was Aquila Reef, a place known only to those who lived and breathed within its salt-laced corridors. Among the maze of coral, a young green sea turtle named Kaya glided gracefully through the currents. Her shell shimmered in patterns of olive and bronze, catching the sunlight that filtered down from the surface like golden fingers. She had just turned 20, barely out of adolescence in turtle years, but already her heart was heavy with curiosity and longing. Kaya wanted to know the world beyond the reef, beyond the safety of her coral home. "Slow down, Kaya," called a voice behind her, cheerful and bubbly. It was Riff, a clownfish with a perpetual twinkle in his eye and a stripe that ran jagged along his side like lightning. "You'll churn up the sand and make the crabs grumpy." Kaya laughed, the sound rippling through her flippers as she slowed her swim. "Let them be grumpy. The reef is big enough for us all." From the sandy shallows emerged Grandmother Moku, an ancient humphead wrasse with scales the color of twilight. Her eyes, clouded with age but sharp with wisdom, scanned the two young ones. "You chase dreams again, child?" she asked Kaya. "The ocean is vast, and not all waves are kind." Kaya tilted her head. "But isn't that why we should explore it, Grandmother? To learn, to understand, to feel the salt of other tides?" Moku exhaled slowly, releasing a stream of bubbles. "Curiosity is brave. But the sea does not bend to curiosity, it tests it." As they spoke, an uneasy hush passed over the reef. Fish darted into hiding. The anemones curled tight. A shadow loomed in the distance, large and slow-moving. Tahi, a massive manta ray with wings like a midnight cloak, swept through the outer edge of the reef. He was a guardian of these waters, a silent sentinel with stories woven into the scars along his back. With each elegant loop he drew through the currents, he whispered to the reef with the language of presence, calm, protective, ancient. "He's watching again," Riff murmured. "Something's coming, isn't it?" Kaya nodded. "I've felt it for days. The currents have been different. Warmer. Less gentle." From the deep, a vibration echoed, like the slow beat of a drum. It reverberated through the bones of the reef, unsettling its dwellers. A pod of dolphins surfaced and zipped through the outskirts of Aquila, whistling warnings to all they passed. Even the sharks, normally regal in their detachment, circled in restless spirals. That evening, as twilight sank into the sea and the reef glowed with bioluminescent fireflies, Kaya swam to the edge of her world. The open ocean yawned before her, limitless and blue, filled with wonders and dangers. The first light of dawn filtered through the sea like the soft breath of a waking giant. Aquila Reef shimmered with hues of rose and gold, still quiet under the lazy rhythm of morning. The reef creatures hadn't yet resumed their bustling routines, and for Kaya and Riff, that silence felt sacred. They hovered at the reef's edge where the coral gave way to the open blue, a place locals called the Fade, where familiar shapes blurred into the unknown. A few curious parrotfish had gathered to see them off, their beaks crunching nervously on dead coral as they watched. Kaya turned to Grandmother Moku, who had arrived with a small entourage of elders, wise fish, soft-shelled crabs, and even a sleepy octopus named Lomi who rarely left his cave. Moku's voice was gentle but firm. "The ocean gives no warnings, only signs. If you read them well, you'll live. If you don't, you'll be stories told to frightened hatchlings." "I'll remember that," Kaya said, bowing her head slightly. Moku continued, lowering her voice so only Kaya and Riff could hear. "And beware of silence. When the ocean goes quiet, it's not peace, it's a warning. Kaya swallowed hard. Thank you, grandmother. Without ceremony, they turned to face the open sea. Kaya beat her flippers and moved forward into the unknown, Riff at her side, darting between her wake like a ribbon of orange lightning. The reef disappeared behind them quickly, faster than Riff liked. Is it weird I already miss the smell of coral dust? He joked. Kaya laughed. You say that as if fish can smell. Who says we can't? Riff smirked. How else do I know when someone's eaten sea cucumber for breakfast? The tension broke with their laughter, but it didn't last long. As they swam deeper, the water darkened and cooled. The sunlight shimmered only faintly above them now, diffused and distant. A current caught them gently, tugging them like invisible hands toward the south. Kaya recognized it. It was part of the equatorial countercurrent, a massive river in the sea that would carry them along the migratory routes of whales, sea turtles, and great pelagic fish. Riff spun in the water, riding the current's pull. This is amazing, he chirped. We're flying. Kaya let herself drift for a moment, the flow guiding her without resistance. In the far distance, shadows moved, massive ones. Wait, Riff said, suddenly still. What's that? Kaya narrowed her eyes. A dark wall was approaching, slow, immense, and covered in barnacles. Then a haunting sound pierced the depths, a deep, trembling song, echoing like thunder wrapped in velvet. Whales, Kaya whispered. From the blue expanse came a pod of humpback whales, mothers and calves, singing ancient ballads as they traveled north for the season. Their songs were vast, rising and falling like memories turned into music. The largest among them, an old bull with half a tail missing, turned an eye toward Kaya as he passed. It was not a hostile look, but a measured one. Dawn in the open ocean was not like dawn on the reef. There were no coral spires to cast long shadows, no waking chatter of wrasses or the rustle of sea fans. Out here, in the pelagic plains, dawn came like a slow exhale of the sea itself, colorless at first, then tinged with cobalt as the sun broke over the horizon far above. Kaya and Riff drifted through a vast blue nothingness, endless in every direction. No walls. No ground. Just water. This place is huge, Riff whispered, eyes wide. It's like the whole ocean swallowed itself. It's where giants pass, Kaya replied, glancing around warily. And ghosts. They had left the kelp forest hours earlier, letting the current lead them deeper into the migratory zones that whales, tuna, and sea turtles traveled each season. But it was quieter than Kaya expected, eerily so. The usual symphony of movement was absent. No whale calls. No dolphin clicks. Only the faint whisper of distant waves above. Then the shadows came. At first, Kaya thought her eyes were playing tricks on her, but soon the water darkened in patches, huge, moving blotches that loomed silently. Riff froze. Predators? He squeaked. No, Kaya said softly. Tuna. A school of yellowfin tuna, numbering in the hundreds, came into view, sleek torpedoes of silver and gold, each as long as Kaya herself. They moved in unison, a living arrow slicing through the sea, fast and silent. Kaya swam slightly above them, admiring their elegance, but something about their formation troubled her. They weren't swimming in their usual broad, relaxed loops. They were fleeing. From what? She got her answer when the first noise hit. It wasn't natural. It didn't belong in the sea. It came like thunder trapped underwater, an engine's roar, distant but closing fast. The water around them quivered. Riff darted to Kaya's side, his gills flaring in panic. Kaya, what is that? Hide, she said, grabbing him with her flipper and diving downward into a swirl of colder current. Moments later, the source passed overhead. A giant motorized trawler, metal-bellied and cruel, cast its net wide across the surface. Long shadowy arms dragged behind it, deadly ghost hands gathering everything in their path. Kaya and Riff watched in horror as dozens of fish were caught in the net's grasp. The tuna scattered in all directions, but some were not fast enough. Their silver bodies vanished into the mesh. One by one, shapes disappeared. A lone sea turtle, smaller than Kaya, maybe a yearling, got trapped in a loop of the net. Kaya's heart pounded. She surged upward, flipper slicing through the water. "Kaya, no!" Riff shouted. "You can't." But she didn't hesitate. The turtle was struggling, flailing helplessly, gasping as the net tightened. Kaya reached it just in time, biting down on the knot with all her strength, her beak scraping against rope and synthetic fiber. The net gave just enough. The baby turtle slipped free, wide-eyed with terror, and spiraled away into the dark. Kaya had never swum this deep before. The water changed as she descended, more than just a drop in temperature. It grew thicker, more silent. Her flippers moved slower now, pushing against invisible weight. Above her, the last beams of sunlight flickered like ghost light through the fading blue, while below her stretched the twilight zone, a shadow realm between surface and abyss. Riff clung close, not his usual zippy self. "I don't like this," he muttered. "Too quiet. Too empty." "It's not empty," said Kaya. "It's just resting." Behind them, Ilias hovered at the edge of his rocky ledge, watching them with all 8 arms folded inward. "Remember," he called softly, "down here, not all light comes from above." He gestured toward the deep. "Seek the Lantern City. Follow the glowing trails. But mind the silence, it bites." Kaya nodded her thanks, then turned and kicked downward with slow, deliberate strokes. Riff hesitated, then followed with a nervous glance behind. As they entered the twilight depths, the sea transformed. It began with flickers, tiny sparks of bioluminescence dancing like stars in water. Jellyfish floated past them like glass balloons, their tendrils trailing delicate lights. Long, eel-like creatures coiled lazily through the dark, some with dangling lanterns hanging from their foreheads, others blinking like drifting Morse code. The deeper they went, the stranger it became. A colony of cone jelly spun in spirals, their bodies pulsing with rainbow hues. A glass squid, nearly invisible, blinked as it passed. And then, Kaya saw it, a vast curtain of blue light in the distance, like a submerged skyline glowing in soft pulses. "That's it," she whispered. "The Lantern City." The closer they swam, the more breathtaking it became. Nestled into a long undersea ridge stood the community of bioluminescent deep-sea dwellers, each species adding to the grand design. Spires of coral glowed pale green, looped with long strands of light-emitting algae. Giant tube worms lined the crevices like glowing sentinels. Strange anglerfish drifted in lazy circles above the ridges, their lures twinkling like street lamps. Kaya and Riff slowed to take it all in. It's beautiful," Riff breathed. "It's alive," Kaya murmured. From the shadows emerged a tall figure, Maru, a viperfish with skin like black velvet and long, needle-like teeth that glinted with faint blue glow. Her eyes were gentle despite her fearsome face, and her long dorsal fin flicked gracefully behind her. "You don't belong here," Maru said, voice low and musical. "No reef creatures visit the lanterns. Not unless they're running." "We're not running," Kaya replied, steady. "We're searching. The ocean is changing. Creatures are fleeing, silence is growing. We need answers." Maru studied her for a long time, then turned without a word. Come. The trench waited like an open wound in the world. As Kaya and Riff swam beyond the glowing lights of the lantern city, the warmth of volcanic vents faded behind them, swallowed by silence. The ocean grew colder again, darker still. Every pulse of their movement stirred ancient, undisturbed waters. Ahead, the mid-ocean trench yawned like a canyon forged by forgotten gods. Its jagged cliffs dropped away into bottomless black, fringed with bones of old shipwrecks and coral skeletons bleached by time and pressure. It was a place few dared to go. Kaya hovered above the edge, her shell shimmering faintly with soft bioluminescence. "This is it," she whispered. "No turning back." Riff shivered beside her, his small body trembling. "I feel like we're about to dive into the belly of the sea." "That's because we are." Without another word, Kaya tilted her flippers and dove. The pressure increased with every meter. Water pushed in from all sides like invisible fists. Her body, built for endurance, adapted, but even she felt the crushing presence of the abyssopelagic zone, a realm where sunlight had never touched, and where only the most resilient creatures survived. Riff stuck close, his stripes dimming. "Kaya, what if we never come back?" She didn't answer. Not because she didn't want to, but because she didn't know. The trench's walls narrowed as they descended, becoming steep and jagged. Faint glows flickered along the rocks, worms of heat, crustaceans with armor like black stone, and ghost-white crabs the size of dinner plates. The trench pulsed with ancient life, alien and defiant. Then, Kaya saw it. A scar on the seabed. A long, deep gouge torn through rock and coral alike. Nothing glowed near it. Nothing moved. Even the pressure felt different, as if the sea itself recoiled. Riff darted ahead to inspect. "It's like something scraped the bottom of the world." Kaya ran a flipper along the torn edge. "This is where the dredger passed. Look how clean the cut is. Too smooth for natural erosion." And then, from behind a ridge, came a strange noise, clink, clunk, hum. It wasn't organic. It wasn't a whale, or a crab, or even a storm overhead. It was mechanical. Kaya pressed herself against the rocks. Riff followed suit, his little body trembling. The sound grew louder, metal grinding, water splitting unnaturally, the thrum of engines deep and distant. Then they saw it. A monstrous machine, larger than any sea creature, rolled slowly across the trench floor. It was covered in silt and rust, dragging vast chains behind it. Huge mechanical claws raked across the seafloor, tearing into rock, coral, and whatever life dwelled there. It had no eyes, only sensors that blinked cold white. Tubes like intestinal worms ran along its back, pumping something dark into the water behind it. "The dredger," Riff whispered. Kaya's heart beat so hard it echoed in her shell. Down and down they swam, into darkness so deep that even the memory of light seemed to vanish. Aaron led them silently, his wide flippers parting the water with ease. Every movement he made seemed deliberate, almost reverent, as if the water here was sacred. Riff, sticking close to Kaya, whispered, "We're not even in the trench anymore, are we?" Kaya shook her head. "No. We're somewhere older." The trench had narrowed, then widened again into a place unlike anything Kaya had imagined. It was not empty or barren, as she had feared. Instead, it pulsed with quiet life. The cradle of tides was a hidden basin, a colossal underwater amphitheater deep below the ocean floor, shielded from detection by shifting thermal vents and thick curtains of black water currents. Massive columns of white coral spiraled upward like cathedral towers. Pools of warm, luminous water flowed in lazy spirals across the floor. Strange creatures, ones Kaya had never read about, never even dreamed of, floated serenely in the shadows. There were jellyfish as large as manta rays, glowing with inner fire. Snake-like creatures with transparent skin swam in slow corkscrews through the ancient currents. Clusters of living rock pulsed with steady blue light, heartbeat-like in rhythm. And in the center of the cradle, far below a massive stone arch etched with fossilized patterns, there lay a pulsing mass of coral and light, an entity so ancient, it didn't even have a fixed shape. It throbbed gently, like a slumbering spirit. Kaya stopped in awe. "Is that?" Aaron nodded. "The blue heart." It wasn't a creature, not in the traditional sense. It wasn't a machine. It wasn't even fully physical. The blue heart was everything, a living concentration of oceanic memory, energy, and rhythm. Its light washed over Kaya and Riff like warm waves in shallow water, and instantly they felt seen. It was as if every moment in their lives, every current, every journey, every sorrow, had led them here. Riff couldn't even speak. Kaya floated forward slowly. "Why is it asleep?" she asked Aaron. Aaron's eyes, still milky, never left the blue heart. "Because the ocean has always been in balance. Until now. The blue heart sleeps when it is at peace. But the peace is breaking." He turned his head. "And that is why you came." A sudden pulse echoed through the water, faster, sharper. The blue heart responded with a flicker of warning light. From far above, a new tremor shook the trench. Riff's head shot upward. "It's the dredger." Aaron's voice deepened. "It has found the gate." Kaya's heart sank. "The trench wall. That scar we saw, it's a path. The dredger is coming here." Aaron nodded solemnly. "If it reaches the cradle, it will do what it was built to do. Strip. Tear. Consume. We have to stop it," Kaya said. But Aaron didn't answer right away. Instead, he looked at Kaya, not at her face, but at her shell. She looked down. The pulse traveled faster than any current ever had. From the moment Kaya touched the blue heart, the signal, a radiant wave of living memory, rushed outward in all directions. It passed through layers of the sea, from the trench's shadowy pit to the glowing lantern city, through kelp forests and coral metropolises, across the vast pelagic plains, over reefs and ridges and ridgelines of salt and sediment. It sang through the water like a heartbeat amplified by every living thing it touched. And the ocean listened. In the Galapagos shallows, Grandmother Moku raised her head, sensing something old and powerful stir her scales. She turned toward the deeper sea and whispered, "She found it." Above the trench, near a drift of wreckage and jagged glass coral, Tahi, the great manta ray guardian, paused mid-glide, his wings stretching as far as they could span. He tilted his body upward, absorbing the energy in the water, and began to glide toward the call, his silence a vow of protection. Even the whales felt it. The humpback bull Kaya had seen days before, still migrating with his pod, suddenly broke off course. He turned his massive body, flicked his powerful flukes, and let loose a new song, one that hadn't been sung in centuries, part warning, part rallying cry. In the deeps, as Kaya floated within the cradle's glow, the blue heart's rhythm flowed through her veins. It wasn't just awareness, it was power. Not domination, not violence. It was the power of connection. The sea, in its vast and infinite ways, was remembering its unity. Riff, still glowing with flickering bands of orange and blue, zipped beside her. "Kaya. I feel like I could race a swordfish and win." She smiled. "Good. You might need to." From above, the dredger began its final descent. Its claws snapped and extended. Drills churned, boring into the sacred stone of the cradle. Its light sliced through the water like spotlights, and its sensors locked onto the pulsing energy below. On Kaya, on the blue heart. It lurched forward, digging through stone and glowing coral without hesitation. Aaron positioned himself between the machine and the core. Not while I live. With astonishing speed, the ancient turtle launched himself upward, colliding with the dredger's metal hull. Sparks and shredded barnacles exploded where his shell struck. The machine reeled, scraping against a coral tower, toppling it. Kaya cried out. Aaron. He swam back toward the machine, battered but unyielding. His voice boomed through the water, "This world does not belong to steel." Then a second tremor struck the sea. But this one was not from the dredger. It was from the ocean itself. Currents shifted, rolling like massive waves through the trench. From the eastern wall, a swarm of glowing creatures poured in, viperfish, gulper eels, and other deep-sea beasts, all illuminated by the blue heart's pulse. They weren't chaotic, they moved in harmony, like warriors in formation. The dredger had fallen, swallowed by the deepest rift in the trench, its hollow shell leaving only silence in its wake. But this silence was no longer ominous. It was peaceful. The kind of stillness that comes after a storm, when the world holds its breath to feel itself whole again. Kaya floated above the cradle of tides, her flippers barely moving, her body still glowing faintly with the light of the blue heart. Around her, the sea shimmered with new life. Creatures that had once hidden in the darkness emerged tentatively, bioluminescent crustaceans, curious translucent fish, and drifting colonies of jelly-like beings that hummed with low, harmonic vibrations. But Kaya's heart wasn't light. Because now that the noise was gone, she could hear everything else, the damage. The trench walls bore massive gouges, shredded and stripped of life. The sacred coral towers of the cradle lay toppled, many shattered beyond repair. The seabed glistened with displaced sand and heavy sediment, suffocating the delicate ecosystems that had taken millennia to form. Kaya looked around at the destruction, her heart heavy. "It's over," she said to Riff, "but look at what it cost." Riff hovered beside her, uncharacteristically quiet. "We saved the blue heart," he said softly. "But, yeah. It feels like we lost something too." They weren't alone in their grief. Aaron, the old abyssal turtle, circled the perimeter slowly, his eyes scanning the damaged seafloor with deep sadness. Maru the viperfish glided quietly through the wreckage, collecting shattered coral fragments and whispering gentle apologies into the water. Ilias the octopus swirled near the broken stone arch, gently rearranging glowing silt, as if restoring sacred runes. Sula, ancient and silent, pressed her body against a dying hydrothermal vent, keeping it warm for the colonies of heat-dwelling creatures clinging to life nearby. The sea, though victorious, was wounded. And then, Kaya felt it again. The pulse. Not a call to fight. A call to restore. The blue heart, still glowing from the center of the cradle, had begun to shift its rhythm. Its once defensive heartbeat now beat slow and deep, its pulses long and harmonious. It was singing again, but this song was not one of war. It was healing. Kaya swam closer to the heart, placing her flipper gently on its surface. A warmth spread through her, not hot or bright, but steady, like the sun filtered through shallow water. She turned to Aaron. "The blue heart, it's offering to help us rebuild." Aaron blinked. "The ocean always grows back. But it needs hands. Flippers. Fins. And voices," said Riff, "to sing it forward." That was when the sea began to move, not with chaos, but with purpose. From the trench's higher ridges, schools of fish returned, their silvery bodies forming flowing patterns. The manta rays glided downward, lifting fallen coral blocks gently with their broad wings. Kaya had never been to the surface. Her life had always been deep, among the glowing forests of kelp, the shifting silt of the trench, and the quiet thunder of the blue heart. She'd glimpsed sunbeams filtering down on clear days, golden ribbons dancing above, but never once had she pierced the line between water and air. Until now. Are you sure about this? Riff hovered beside her, fins twitching nervously. I mean, I love an adventure, but the surface is, dry. Kaya smiled gently. Not if we don't leave the water. We just need to get close enough to be seen. Aaron, massive and scarred, approached from behind. The last time I saw the surface was before you were hatched. It was filled with noise and light and fire. But maybe it's changed. Maybe you can change it. You're going up there to do what? Ilias bubbled into view, ink trailing behind him like a cloak. Negotiate with legs? Kaya, they don't listen. They will, she said. Not all of them, maybe. But someone will. And so she began her ascent. The journey was slow, and each meter upward changed the sea. The darkness faded, replaced by the rich blues of open water. More fish appeared, more sunlight trickled through. The pressure lightened, and the cold lessened. Kaya was afraid, but not of the surface. She was afraid of being ignored. Riff stayed close, though clearly uncomfortable. Do you think we'll see birds? I've heard of them, flying fish of the sky. Screaming, pooping, angry fish. Those are seagulls, Kaya said, trying not to laugh. And yes, probably. Hours passed. Day turned to dusk, and still they rose. Then finally, the light broke. Kaya breached the surface for the first time in her life. The sky was an infinite canvas of pink and orange, bleeding into the rising moon. Stars blinked into view as the last edge of the sun dipped behind the sea. The air was crisp, foreign, dry. Kaya blinked, adjusting her eyes, barely believing what she saw. This, she whispered. This is where the storms come from. She hovered just below the surface, her eyes barely above the waves, taking in the vast horizon. There were distant boats, small, shadowy shapes on the edge of her vision. And there, closer, a platform. A strange floating raft with lights, nets, and ladders. Humans. They were real. Riff poked his head up beside her. Oh no. There they are. Look at them. Standing. Breathing air. You still want to do this? Kaya nodded. We have to try. She dove beneath the platform and circled once, scouting. There were 3 humans aboard, one older woman with silver hair tied back beneath a cap, and 2 younger men sorting nets. The older woman seemed different, less frantic, more aware of her surroundings. She looked out over the water often, as if expecting something. Kaya surfaced again, closer this time. The humans didn't notice. She surfaced again, this time letting her bioluminescence shine. Soft waves of blue and green pulsing from her shell, like ripples of living starlight. The woman's name was Dr. Islam Marin. She had spent 30 years on the water, studying whales, tagging sea turtles, protesting oil rigs, and fighting to save the ecosystems she loved. But nothing had prepared her for what she saw that night on the open sea, a glowing turtle with eyes like ancient tides, and a tiny, spinning clownfish beside it, shimmering like a comet. She had felt something in that moment. Not science. Not fantasy. reverence. The images she captured that night went viral within days. Her satellite uplink transmitted video feeds to scientific communities around the world. The footage was grainy, but undeniable, Kaya's glowing shell spinning in slow arcs of color. Rifts darting flashes. The soft pulses of light echoing in deliberate rhythm. People called it a hoax at first. Computer graphics. A marketing stunt. But then came the second video. Then a third. Then hundreds, divers near Madagascar spotting coordinated dolphin formations. Fishermen in Baja reporting pods of whales blocking trawlers with unusual precision. Coral blooms reappearing in long-dead reefs, almost overnight. And always, the rhythm. That steady, pulsing beat, somehow consistent across oceans, appearing in currents, in plankton formations, even in underwater sonar equipment. The world didn't know it yet, but the blue heart was speaking. Back beneath the waves, Kaya floated in the renewed warmth of Aquila Reef. Since her journey to the surface, things had changed, slowly, yes, but undeniably. A pod of sperm whales had returned to the southern trench, singing unfamiliar songs with ancient structure. Giant squid emerged from the dark rift, no longer hiding but curious, their gestures no longer fearful. But more than that, Kaya could feel a shift in the water itself. It remembered. Every creature seemed to hold a sense of awareness now. Not just instinct, but presence. The schools of fish moved not just with survival, but with unity. The jellyfish pulsed in sync with the moon. The coral polyps waved in patterns that echoed the blue heart's pulse. Riff, resting on a cushion of anemone, sighed dramatically. "We're becoming famous. I've always wanted to be a symbol of interspecies diplomacy." Kaya smiled. "You're not wrong." Then, from the open blue, Aaron approached with a look Kaya had never seen in his eyes. "Kaya," he said, voice gravelly but steady. "The elders wish to speak with you." Kaya blinked. "Elders?" "The Council of Depths has awakened. They've summoned you." Kaya's breath caught. The Council of Depths was more myth than memory, ancient beings, some said, older than coral itself. Whales, sharks, cephalopods, all connected not by blood or region but by wisdom. They had not met in over 100 years. "Where?" she asked. "The Leviathan Cradle. 2 days west." "I will take you." Riff immediately swam to Kaya's side. "Where she goes, I go. Unless they eat clownfish." "Do they eat clownfish?" "They eat stories," Aaron said with a smile. The journey was long, but majestic. The decision had been made. The Council of Depths would rise. Not with storms. Not with destruction. But with a message, one too powerful, too vivid, too alive to ignore. Kaya, still trembling from the Council's pronouncement, hovered beside Riff on the rim of the Leviathan Cradle. The walls around them shimmered with living light, shifting in rhythm with the distant heartbeat of the blue heart, which now pulsed like a great, ancient drum beneath the world. How do we even do it?" Riff asked, voice small. "How do you get the attention of a whole species that never looks beneath its own feet?" Kaya didn't have an answer. But the council did. The dolphin, still glowing faintly, spoke without sound. "We will rise through their eyes. Through their screens. Through their fears and wonder. If they live by image, then let them see." The whale matriarch added, "They cannot ignore what stands before them, together. Every reef, every fin, every voice." And so the plan began. Word was sent, currents carried the message faster than any wire. From the polar seals of Antarctica to the hammerhead coasts of Papua, From Arctic narwhals to tropical dolphins, the entire world ocean began to shift. Pods of orcas began surfacing near major ports, forming intricate spirals visible from the air. Squid colonies lit up the deep waters off Japan in glowing symbols that flickered in harmony, spelling out the pulse of the blue heart. And then came the whales. They rose not in solitude, but in groups. Humpbacks, blues, minks, even the elusive beaked whales, all surfaced at once, in dozens of locations around the world. They circled ships, gathered near satellites, and sang in overlapping, haunting harmony, songs that reached the land. On every ocean-facing shore, people stopped and stared. The media exploded. Global marine phenomenon. Animals coordinating worldwide? Is the ocean alive? And in the center of it all, in a wide bay off a quiet coast, Kaya breached. Her glowing shell broke the surface just as the moon rose, illuminating the water in silver. Riff surfaced beside her, spinning in tight loops, casting shimmering orange light into the sky. Behind them, the dolphin from the council emerged. Then the matriarch whale, flanked by younger calves. The cuttlefish flashed a brilliant color wheel beneath the surface, and the thresher shark's fin sliced through the waves like a symbol carved into the sea. And people watched. Millions. On ships, from drones, across live feeds. The footage captured everything. The unity. The beauty. The order. The unmistakable intent. Kaya dove, then breached again, this time projecting the pulse of the blue heart through her shell, a soft wave of color and light. Every creature with her mirrored the rhythm. And across the globe, cameras picked it up. The pulse repeated. Over. And over. Humans began to understand it wasn't just a pattern. It was a message. Then Dr. Isla Marin, watching from the original platform where she'd first met Kaya. It began with stillness. For the first time in decades, vast stretches of sea were quiet. No engines. No nets. No drills. A single week after the global surfacing, thousands of vessels voluntarily returned to shore. Fishermen paused their hunts. Cruise ships canceled voyages. Oil companies faced petitions too massive to ignore. And governments, so often slow and tangled, found themselves pushed by something stronger than politics. The awe of billions. Children marched with shells strung around their necks, chanting in the rhythm of the blue heart. Elders, who once thought the sea was fading, told stories again, of times when the ocean sang. Indigenous communities who had long known of the sea's voice were finally heard. And through it all, the image of Kaya, glowing, serene, ancient, became a symbol not just of the sea, but of memory itself. Memory of what Earth used to be. And what it could still become. But not everyone believed. On the dark edge of the media spectrum, voices called it a coordinated hoax. Drones. CGI. Mass hysteria. Some claimed Kaya was a government experiment. Others, a spiritual hallucination. And some, as always, simply refused to care. Back beneath the waves, Kaya watched the world teeter between awakening and ignorance. She felt the pull of hope, and the bite of doubt. It's not enough, she whispered to Aaron, who drifted beside her near the coral cliffs of Saluna Trench. He nodded slowly. Not yet. But it is beginning. Riff, nearby, watched a pod of pilot whales drawing circles in the water. Maybe we need to do more than show them. Maybe we need to teach them. Kaya turned toward him. How? Riff pointed with a flick of his fin. Start small. One place. One reef. one connection. A sanctuary. And with that, a new vision was born. A sanctuary, not hidden, not remote, but shared. A place where sea and land could meet, not in conquest, but in collaboration. The idea spread through the currents as quickly as any signal. Dolphins carried it from cove to cove. Parrotfish whispered it through coral passages. Jellyfish pulsed the message across twilight zones. And soon, Kaya was not alone in her hope. In the Solomon Isles, sea turtles began nesting near human villages without fear. In Baja, orcas escorted small fishing boats away from polluted waters. In the North Atlantic, beluga whales formed patterns near research ships, spelling out coordinates. Each one led to a reef. Each reef had something in common: it was dying. And yet, where the animals gathered, the reef began to stir again. Coral polyps bloomed in faint pink. Fish returned in schools. Seagrasses rippled like infant forests. Kaya visited each one, guiding the rhythm of the blue heart into their roots. And above, humans responded. Dr. Islam Marin led the charge. She collaborated with indigenous stewards, oceanographers, activists, and storytellers. Not governments, people. They raised funds. They formed citizen fleets. The first reef fell quietly. One of the newly named Circle Reefs, near the coast of Sumatra, where Kaya had helped reseed coral and guide dolphins to nest among its curves, went dark. It wasn't a storm. Not a predator. It was metal. An unmarked deep-sea dredger, operating illegally at night, scraped across the seabed like a blade. It didn't just take, it stripped, leaving coral shards and clouds of sand in its wake. The harmony of the blue heart faded in that region like breath drawn away too soon. Kaya heard it. A sudden silence that echoed deeper than sound. She rushed there, arriving with Aaron and a school of parrotfish, but the reef was broken. Empty. Like a body drained of color. The dolphins who had guarded it swam in confused circles. The clownfish darted erratically, lost. Kaya pressed her flippers to the broken coral and whispered, "No." Riff arrived moments later. He hovered above the shattered reef in silence. Who would do this? Why? Aaron's voice was grim. Because some believe the sea is still theirs to command. Elsewhere, footage leaked. A private energy firm had been monitoring Kaya's glow signatures, tracking the council's locations via heat maps, sonar, and satellite. They saw not wisdom or unity, but power. And power, to them, was something to control. This could be a new energy source, one executive said on the recording. Imagine harnessing that pulse. That current. That consciousness. The world reacted with horror. Protests erupted. Children sang the Blue Heart rhythm in front of corporate headquarters. Divers formed human chains to block off the remaining circle reefs. But it was not enough to stop the second attack. This time, it was chemical, an experimental sonar disruptor released near the coast of Argentina, designed to confuse large marine mammals. The company claimed it was a precautionary deterrent to avoid whale collisions. The result? 5 whales beached themselves. 3 survived. Kaya watched from the surf, unable to reach them in time. She pressed her body against the flank of the youngest, still breathing, its song flickering faintly in the shallows. The young whale turned a bleary eye toward her. "Why are they hurting us, again?" Kaya had no answer. Only tears. In the depths, the council gathered once more. The blind dolphin spoke solemnly. "We opened our song, and they turned it into a signal." The thresher shark growled. We should vanish. Go deeper. Hide the heart again. No, said Kaya, voice steady but hoarse. That's what they expect. That's what fear does. The matriarch whale stirred. Then what would you have us do, Blue Shell? Kaya turned her gaze to the rising tide. We speak again, but not just with beauty. Riff blinked. You don't mean? Yes, Kaya said. We show them what silence feels like. The ocean withdrew. Not in storm or tsunami, but in presence. Whales stopped surfacing. Dolphins vanished from coastlines. Coral stopped glowing. Schools of fish moved like shadows, silent, coordinate. For the first time in centuries, the sea became quiet. No leaping dolphins. No whispering whales. No shimmer of reef light in the shallows. Only the churn of waves and the distant hum of human machines, mechanical, hollow, unaware. The ocean's silence was not absence. It was choice. Kaya had returned to the deepest fold of the Leviathan cradle, curled into a gentle hollow among the bones of time. Around her, bioluminescent coral faded like cooling embers. Riff, who had once darted joyfully through every current, now lingered in place, spinning slowly, his energy dimmed. I don't like it this way, he whispered. It feels like we've lost something. Aaron hovered near, solemn as always. Perhaps it's the world's turn to speak. But they don't know how, said Riff. They've only ever shouted. Kaya didn't respond. She was listening. And what she heard was faint. A rhythm. Weak, uneven. But real. She rose from the trench slowly and turned toward the west. Across the deep, she followed that thread, a heartbeat not from the blue heart, but from land. In a quiet bay in Norway, far from cities, a circle of humans gathered along a snow-lined fjord. They had no machines. No cameras. Only stones and shells arranged on the beach. In the center sat a young Sami boy, eyes closed, palms pressed to the frozen sand. He hummed. Low and slow, a pulse in his chest mimicking the rhythm of the heart. His grandmother sat behind him, whispering old stories of sea spirits, whale songs, and the great mother beneath the waves. The sea does not leave, she said. It waits. And just beyond the ice-slick shore, a shadow moved. A narwhal. Alone. Listening. Then, in the Philippines, a team of local divers abandoned their cameras and instead carried pieces of shattered coral by hand, planting them gently into the wounded reef Kaya had once touched. They didn't speak. They only worked, hour by hour, returning color to the graveyard. And in Brazil, a group of schoolchildren created a glowing mural on the coast using bioluminescent algae, spelling out, "We remember you." Each act was small. But the ocean noticed. The blind dolphin and the council stirred. The cuttlefish who had hidden in the ruins of her garden flicked a single curl of neon. And in the heart of the Pacific, Kaya heard the echo again, faint, but true. She surfaced under a crescent moon in a forgotten cove. There was no crowd. No stage. Just one woman, elderly, dark-skinned, eyes closed, seated on a stone with her feet in the water. She was humming the blue heart rhythm. Kaya approached, slowly, allowing her shell to glow once, pale gold, no brighter than a candle. The woman opened her eyes and smiled. "I hoped you'd come." Kaya blinked. "I don't have a camera," the woman said, "or a satellite. Just memory." She tapped her chest. "And I still carry yours." Kaya leaned forward, placing her flipper on the water surface near the woman's hand. And together, they hummed. Dawn broke across the Saluna Trench. The light filtered down in shafts, painting the deep with golden fingers. It was not bright, not blinding, just enough to stir the silence. The coral here, once gray and cracked, had begun to glow again in pale pinks and shy blues. Sea fans gently unfolded like morning flowers. Tiny fish darted among them, their scales catching glimmers of color. At the center of it all lay Kaya. Her shell, once dim with sorrow, now shimmered faintly with gold again, not the blinding brilliance of her first emergence, but something warmer, steadier. Aaron swam near, watching her with eyes filled not with fear, but patience. "It's time," he said. Kaya nodded. "I know." From the darkness, Riff appeared, no longer spiraling with nervous energy, but with purpose. They've been waiting. Not for a sign. Not for a miracle. Just, for us. And so Kaya rose. Not alone. The council emerged with her, one by one, like spirits born from memory. The matriarch whale, her song low and steady. The blind dolphin, scanning the tides with sonar more powerful than sight. The cuttlefish queen, her shifting colors pulsing in rhythm with the reef. Even the thresher shark, once cynical, now calm and ready. Together, they rose toward the surface. Above, the world was listening. Circle reefs had become sacred grounds, guarded not by governments, but communities. Children gathered on beaches to hum the rhythms taught to them by elders and dreamers. Fishermen marked no net zones not with law, but with trust. Activists turned into caretakers. Scientists became storytellers. And humanity, for once, wasn't looking down on the ocean. They were looking toward it. That morning, across all coasts and continents, something happened at once. Whales breached, thousands of them. Not alone, not confused, but in symphony. Dolphins danced in spiral patterns, mimicking the ancient shell of Kaya's kind. Bioluminescent plankton lit the surf in the pattern of the blue heart. Sea turtles surfaced in harbors they hadn't visited in generations. Sharks, yes, even them, swam peacefully along reef edges, acting as sentinels rather than hunters. And in the sky above them, no planes flew. By agreement, not law, flights over major reefs were paused for one day. The world went still. And the sea sang. Kaya rose above the waves in the middle of the Pacific, where the first reef had been reborn. She pulsed with golden light, not to blind, but to connect. And then, she spoke. Not through words. Through memory. Through presence. Through rhythm. The sound was not heard with ears, it was felt in bones. It traveled through water and blood and soul. A heartbeat, ancient and vast, filled every corner of the world. In every language, every mind, every heart, it whispered. We remember. We forgive. We rise. The blue heart beat once more, not just in the ocean, but in them. Humans. The sound was not heard with ears, it was felt in bones. It traveled through water and blood and soul. A heartbeat, ancient and vast, filled every corner of the world. In every language, every mind, every heart, it whispered. We remember. We forgive. We rise. The blue heart beat once more, not just in the ocean, but in them. Humans. They cried. They laughed. Some fell to their knees on rocky shores. Others ran to the sea, dove in, and felt the water welcome them not as strangers, but as kin. Later, in a classroom in Ghana, a child would write, "The sea is not a thing. It is a being. It loved us, even when we forgot. And when we sang again, it came home. In the years that followed, the world changed, not with revolutions or empires, but with rhythms. Circle reefs became learning grounds, where ocean animals and human caretakers met to share and protect. Schools taught the language of shells. Tourism shifted from spectacle to stewardship. Entire coastlines were restored. Not because laws forced it, but because hearts remembered. And the blue heart? It beat on. In the depth of Saluna Trench, in the lullaby of the tide, in the hum of coral and the songs of whales. And in Kaya, ancient, eternal, and at peace. She did not disappear. She simply swam forward, with the tide, knowing now that she no longer carried the ocean's memory alone. The end.